Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the virtual international webinar on the challenges and opportunities related to the COVID-19 and the creative economy. Welcome to participants that are participating both on the Zoom platform as well as the YouTube platform. We extend a warm welcome to our speakers. The Director General for Multilateral Affairs of the Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, His Excellency Mr. Fabian Rudyard, who is joining us from Jakarta. The Special Advisor to the Minister on Innovation and Creativity with the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy of Indonesia, Mr. Joshua Simanjuntak, who is joining us from Jakarta. The Assistant Undersecretary of Arts and Heritage of the Ministry of Culture and Youth of the United Arab Emirates, His Excellency Mr. Sheikh Salem Al-Qasimi, who is joining us from Abu Dhabi. The Chief for the Creative Economy Program of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, Ms. Marisa Henderson, who is joining us from Geneva. The Deputy Chairman of the Design-Based Creative Industry Permanent Committee of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Louis Saluaji, who is joining us from Jakarta. The Chairwoman of the Bandung Creative City Forum, Ms. Tita Larasati, who is joining us from Bandung, West Java. This virtual seminar will be moderated by the Director for Interagencies Relations of the Indonesian Ministry of Tourism and Creative Industry, Mr. Chandra Negara, who is joining us from Jakarta. Before we start, allow me to read a short housekeeping rules. All distinguished speakers will first take the floor one by one before the floor is open all together for discussion. So please save your questions for the half an hour or 40 minutes discussion session towards the end of the seminar. Please keep your questions very, very brief. To be involved in the discussion or to ask questions, we ask the audience to please register your intended intervention by dropping your brief intervention and questions in the chat room of this Zoom application, so as to allow the moderator to give you the floor. Additionally, for those who are following this seminar through the Zoom platform, we kindly ask you to fill the registration form to assist us in sending the souvenirs. The host of the program, the Director for Trade, Commodity, and Intellectual Property of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, Mr. Hari Prabowo, will now take the floor.
Thank you very much, and just a quick welcome to all our distinguished speakers, and also, of course, all of our participants. Selamat sore, very good afternoon, good morning for colleagues joining from Abu Dhabi, from Geneva. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya. I hope everyone is in good health, in this challenging time. But of course, this challenging time is not a reason for us not to be productive, especially we in the creative economic sector, because in these unprecedented times, the way to cope with this challenge is to move beyond business as usual, to advance creativity and innovation. So we in the creative economic sector actually by nature should be able to contribute to addressing the many dimensions of the impacts of the pandemic, including in promoting economic recovery and resilience. And that is the main reason for us to organize this virtual webinar. to identify ways and means on how creative economy can contribute to global economic resilience, global economic recovery, especially considering next year will be the International Year on Creative Economy for Sustainable Development. So it is our task as stakeholders in this sector to make sure that the implementation of the International Year will be meaningful and impactful. And we also thank all participants. We have a very diverse of participants representing many member countries of Friends of Creative Economy. Welcome to this event. And from the Indonesian side, we also have quite a wide range of stakeholders from the creative entrepreneurs, association, universities and think tanks, as well as government agencies related to the creative industry. So I hope this webinar will be productive and will contribute to our mutual effort to advance creative economy in the global stage. Thank you. And then I now give the screen to our moderator, Pak Chandra. Pak Chandra? Oh, sorry, Pak Chandra. I think you need to unmute. Okay.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Thank you very much, Pak Bowo. The admin actually did not allow me to unmute myself, actually. Well, anyway, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, good morning to all speakers and participants of this webinar. Before I start moderating this webinar, I want to make a little bit correction that I'm actually moderating this webinar from Yogyakarta. So I'm not in Jakarta. So I just want to add another city that involved in this webinar. Thank you very much again, Pak Bowo. For participants, speakers, I'd like to introduce myself first. My name is Chandra Negara. I'm Director for Institutional Relations at the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia. It is indeed an honor for me to moderate this webinar. I have two important reasons why. The first one is that this webinar is a very interesting and has a very challenging topics. Preparing the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development next year is quite attractive endeavor, I believe, for all stakeholders around the world, not only in Indonesia as initiator or other 81 countries as co-sponsor of the resolution, but also to all countries in the world, how to further promote creative economy in the agenda of their economic policy, of economic development policy. And then while we are organizing this, or we are preparing for the International Year of Creative Economy, now we are in the middle of a global pandemic. So it gives us more challenge. The second reason is that we have excellent speakers from around the world who have a very long and excellent reputation in the field of creative economy. It's really an honor for me to moderate them. And I believe all those speakers will share their insights, ideas, thought for the advancements of creative economy, especially on how to promote creative economy in the global economic development. And then I also I'd like to mention here. I have recognized several important participants in this webinar from embassies, government officials, creative economy actors, as well as academicians. Before we start the discussion and uh, presentations, I would like now to invite His Excellency Febrian Rudyat, my senior, my mentor, to deliver his keynote speech. Pak Febrian, the screen is yours, Pak.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak Chandra. His Excellency Sheikh Salim Al-Qasimi, Assistant Undersecretary of Arts and Heritage, Ministry of Culture and Youth, United Arab Emirates, Pak Joshua Simanjuntak, Special Advisor to the Minister on Innovation and Creativity, Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, Ms. Marisa Henderson, Chief of Creative Economy Program of UNCTAD, Pak Chandra Negara, Director for Interagency Relation, Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, teman saya Pak Louis Salwaji from the Indonesian Chambers of Commerce, and Ibu Tita Larasati from Bandung Creative City Forum, and all the distinguished delegates, distinguished participants. I wish to start by expressing my sincere thanks to all distinguished speakers and participants for attending this virtual webinar. Personally, I wish we could have organized this webinar in a non-virtual setting so we could meet in a person and showcase our innovative and creative product relevant to our discussion. Nevertheless, I am very pleased to see the strong commitment and profound attention from all of you by taking part in this event. This webinar reflects the strong commitment of the Indonesian government in mainstreaming and promoting creative economy in the world stage. As we recall, back in 2018, Indonesia hosted the first World Conference on Creative Economy in Bali, and in the following year, Indonesia also initiated the UN resolution on the International Year on Creative Economy for Sustainable Development 2021. I thank all of the participants, all the colleagues for the support for the passing of this UNGA resolution. We have also established the Global Center for Excellence and International Cooperation for Creative Economy, and our preparation for the implementation of the International Year is well underway despite the COVID-19 pandemic. It is true that this pandemic has hit the creative industry very hard, as is the case with all other economic sectors. This crisis is perhaps the greatest global challenge after the Second World War, a crisis like no other, as underlined by the IMF. Nevertheless, in many ways, the creative economy sector has adapted and is fighting hard against this pandemic. From producing face masks in a trendy and fashionable design to applying health protocol in hospitality industry, from incorporating digital economy into their business process to having virtual concert and exhibition. All these are testimony to the agility and resilience of the creative economy industry. Indeed, in facing this unprecedented challenge, we need to move beyond business as usual. And the creative economy, with its inherent ability to think innovatively, should be able to take the driver's seats in the global effort toward economic resilience and recovery. Considering the innovative nature of the creative industry, as stakeholder in this sector, we all have the responsibility to ensure that the creative industry contribute toward global economic recovery, to mitigate the adverse effect of the crisis, open up new opportunities for SMEs, ease our transition into the new normal in various aspects of life, also to address many development challenges such as youth unemployment, gender inequality, and poverty. It is also important to underline that by working together in the creative economy sector, we are shaping a more inclusive world. The creative industry value diversity. Hence, through the inclusive nature of creative economy, we could develop platform to bridge better communication and interaction between cultures, an effective tool for global social and economic cohesion. Thus, we are contributing not only in terms of commercial gain, but also in widening mutual understanding among people from different cultural backgrounds. This is why for the 2021 International Year on Creative Economy for Sustainable Development, Indonesia proposes the theme of inclusively creative for global recovery. And in this regard, I hope this webinar could facilitate productive exchange views among us on the implementation of the International Year, including the planned meeting of the World Conference on Creative Economy. And to ensure that this International Year will be meaningful and impactful to the world community, the International Year must be able to facilitate mutually beneficial interaction between all stakeholders of the creative economy sector, designer, architect, cultural organization, civil society, academic, creative entrepreneur, and relevant government agency. It must be action-oriented and generate concrete ideas that support further development of creative economy at all levels. I also hope this webinar could lay down solid foundation for further strengthening of international cooperation in this sector, aimed at scaling up innovation and economic benefits of the creative industry. Distinguished participants, allow me to briefly summarize my remarks in Bahasa Indonesia. Bapak dan Ibu yang saya hormati, selama pandemi COVID-19, kita telah menyaksikan kemampuan sektor ekonomi kreatif untuk beradaptasi dan menemukan peluang dalam kondisi yang menantang. Mulai dari produksi masker muka yang trendy dan modis, sampai penerapan protokol kesehatan pada industri restoran dan perhotelan. Ekonomi kreatif juga beradaptasi melalui ekonomi digital, antara lain dengan mengakses aplikasi digital, serta penyelenggaraan konser dan pameran secara virtual. Menghadapi situasi ini, kita harus menjalankan aktivitas perekonomian secara tidak biasanya, beyond business as usual. Dengan karakter yang inovatif dan adaptif, ekonomi kreatif dapat berperan besar dalam memperkuat upaya pemulihan dan ketahanan ekonomi nasional dan global. Karenanya, para pelaku ekonomi kreatif harus dapat mengoptimalkan peran mereka dalam mendukung upaya pemulihan ekonomi. Keberhasilan kita memajukan sektor ekonomi kreatif juga akan memperkuat jalinan interaksi dan pemahaman lintas budaya. Disinilah keindahan ekonomi kreatif yang bersifat inklusif dan menghargai keberagaman. Dengan bersemangat ini, Indonesia mengusulkan tema inclusively creative for global recovery, guna menggaungkan tahun 2021 sebagai tahun internasional ekonomi kreatif untuk pembangunan berkelanjutan. Saya berharap webinar ini dapat menjadi forum yang tepat untuk mendiskusikan implementasi tahun internasional tersebut. Implementasi yang berorientasi pada hasil dan berbagai bentuk inisiatif konkret yang mendukung pengembangan ekonomi kreatif. Saya berharap webinar ini dapat memberikan dasar yang kuat bagi penguatan kerjasama internasional dalam mendorong inovasi dan nilai ekonomi sektor ekonomi kreatif. Ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude, allow me to acknowledge and extend my deep appreciation to the government of United Arab Emirates for the strong support and close partnership with Indonesia in bringing the creative economy into the global agenda. Indonesia plans to host the second World Conference on Creative Economy in Bali, hopefully in the first quarter of 2021, while the UAE will host the third World Conference on Creative Economy in Dubai at the later part of next year. We truly honor that His Excellency Sheikh Salim Al-Qasimi from the Ministry of Culture and Youth of the UAE participate in this webinar as one of our speakers today. And we plan to sustain and connect the conversation in Bali and Dubai through United Nations High-Level Forum on Sustainable Development, as well as possible minister-level meeting of the Friends of Creative Economy. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our counterpart from UNCTAD, UNIDO, UNICEF, and WIPO, and of course, the Indonesian Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy. I also thank colleagues from other ministry and the private sector for joining hand with us in further advancing the creative economy agenda. Last but not least, I want to underline that it is stakeholders at the practical level, creative entrepreneur who can translate political commitment into tangible action. Let us creatively explore, discuss, and continue what we have started by working together to create concrete, meaningful, and international collaboration. I wish you have a fruitful discussion during this virtual webinar. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I thank you very much, Pak Febri, speakers and participants. We have just listened to this keynote speech from Pak Febrian Rudyat. His Excellency Febrian Rudyat is a Director General of Multilateral Cooperation at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. I took note on some of the important message of the keynote speech. Among others is the recognition that the importance of this webinar, as well as participation of the speakers and participants later on the strong commitment that we show to the development, to the promotion of creative economy, especially in the global creative economy. And then the second one is that DG Rudyat expects this webinar can produce a concrete result, give more action-oriented recommendation on the implementation of the resolution of the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development, as well as the organization of the World Conference on Creative Economy in 2021, both in Bali, Indonesia, and in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Thank you very much again, Pak Febri. Now, let us start our discussion with presentation from the eminent speakers that we have in our list now. We have Mr. Joshua Simanjuntak, and then we have already also His Excellency Sheikh Salim Al-Kashimi, and we have my very good friend from Geneva, Miss Maria Henderson. We have Pak Louis Salwaji, and then Dr. Tita Larasati from Bandung to provide us with their ideas, insights, thoughts, lesson learned, experience on the promotion of creative economy. Now, I would like to invite Pak Joshua Simanjuntak, but before he proceed, I want to read his short, not short, I mean a brief curriculum vitae. Mr. Joshua Simanjuntak is now Special Advisor to the Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy on Innovation and Creativity. His career in government started relatively late after multi-dimensional experiences in the creative economy sector, such as academician, business player, and now government official. As business practitioner, Mr. Joshua was a product developer with Tom Dixon Studio, Design Research Limited in London. He then established a design studio in Indonesia, the Karsa Design Studio, and took up the role of art director with furniture manufacturing company based in Solo, Indonesia. In terms of recognition of his expertise in the field of design, Mr. Joshua received the Worshipful Company of Furniture Makers Award from the Rathbone College of Design and Communication in London, the Indonesian Gold Award in 2009, and the Silver Award from the Design for Asia Award in 2014. That's among his achievement. And then his formal education, he gave a very highly regards in the creative economy agenda because he took the training in the field of design in the Central St. Martin College of Art and Design in London. And then he received a first-class honor Bachelor of Arts in Furniture and related Product Design from the Rathbone College of Design and Communication in London. And then lastly, he topped his list of formal academic training with 2 master's degree, one in the Royal College of Art in the Product Design, and another one with the London Metropolitan University in Branding Strategy. In this webinar, Mr. Simanjuntak will deliver his views on Indonesia policy in supporting the development of creative economy in pandemic COVID-19 era. Pak Joshua, Mr. Simanjuntak, the screen is yours now.
Yes, thank you, Pak Chandra. Okay, first of all, greetings to His Excellency, Mr. Director General for Multilateral Cooperation, Mr. Fabian Rudyard, a long-time supporter to the creative economy from Foreign Ministry, and Dr. Tita Larasati from Bandung Creative City Forum, and Mr. Louis Salwaji from Indonesia Chambers of Commerce, which I knew Mr. Louis from many, many years. I don't know if you remember me. And of course, special greetings to the speakers from outside Indonesia, His Excellency Minister Sheikh Salem Al-Qasimi from the UAE, and of course, Ms. Marisa Henderson from Geneva, from UNCTAD. Thank you for your everlasting support to the creative economy. Well, I start to look at this COVID-19, which has given our modern world, yes, a very challenging time, but yet potentially lessons to learn for the future of this creative economy. So we look in our ministry, we look at the pandemic in stages. The first stage was the mitigation stage, where basically the world was shocked by the pandemic, and most nations responded by making the lockdown, and people learn how to deal with the pandemic and to cope with the virus. And for us, our immediate response was to find ways to help the creative workers who have been affected by the pandemic. And since we have this unique spirit of togetherness, what we call the gotong royong, to help each other. So we generated activities to channel this spirit. So there was a spirit of helping each other, trying to get support to each other. So we facilitate charity activities such as concerts. We did an online film festival where we gather fund, and the fund given directly to the affected creative workers. As well as we're running also program for Cash for Work program to help creative workers to become to continue productive while at home. So there wasn't really any policy at that time. You know, it takes a long time to create a policy. We at that stages we responded just instantly. Now, this continue with the slowing down of the business, since that many creative workers use this lockdown time to gain more knowledge. So we look at this as a moment for creative workers to learn new skills, which enable them to be ready when the pandemic should pass. Now, in response to this, we facilitate webinars such as this webinar, and interestingly enough, the webinars that we held created more solutions for the creative workers to work along during the pandemic. This is what's unique, like Mr. Fabian said, the creative industry, you know, where there is pressure, people are more creative finding solutions. And this webinar facilitate more solutions to work together, to work still along with the during the pandemic. Now, unfortunately, this pandemic is unpredictable. We don't know when this will be end, and the situation was not in favor to better, but instead the situation followed by the lockdown, which limit the people mobility. Now, this gave a tremendous effect to all businesses, not only creative businesses, but all businesses. And where the snowball effect of economic slowing down has begun. This is where we look at the second stages of handling this COVID situation. Now, the focus of the second stages is on helping the creative businesses to survive. And we did a research, we did a survey, and it's indicated that 98% of the creative businesses have affected by this pandemic. And there's a downsizing of the companies, or even shutting down of some of the companies. This pandemic really give difficulties for creative businesses to continue to work. As you know, most of the creative businesses, it's a real business. They create, they do physical creation. As an example, film industry. Film industry is a huge industry, and it simply just cannot continue go on production due to the limitation of mobility and because of the number of the people that involved in a film project. It simply just not cannot continue. Now, in response to this situation, now we started to make a policy, as what the president at that time pointed us to adapt, to go into the adaptation process so that the businesses can continue be productive yet safe. So therefore, we released a guidebook on the cleanliness, healthy and safety and environmentally friendly guidance. So using this guidance, creative businesses can continue to work. And this now is already happening. Film industry start continue shooting the film. Cafes, restaurants still open now. Design studios continue to work. This all going through with the guidance that is released by the government. So in this case, that now we can start seeing a movement in the business. Now, it is not saying that the guidance is the only support that the government gives to the creative industries. We also adopt policies that issued by the Minister of Finance, such as tax relaxation for the creative businesses, as well as giving a special tariff for electricity to the businesses as well as the creative businesses, and this helps that the creative sector starts to generate production of this their creative output, right? Now, that is from the supply side. I mean, we are supporting the creative businesses to continue being productive. Now, on the other side of the supply, we need to look into that, because what they produce needs to be consumed. Now, we create this program, which which launched by the president on the 14th of May in 2020, is a program called Bangga Buatan Indonesia, or translated as proudly made in Indonesia. So this program is projected to stimulate the local this program is created to have consumers consume local products, which is very important at this stage of recovery, because this is what we need to help the small medium enterprise, including which mostly of the creative businesses are the size of the creative businesses. So what they produce is promoted, and we give incentive for the consumers to consume the local products, including the creative products. So this Bangga Buatan Indonesia is connected with the e-commerce platform. So the e-commerce platform promoted all these products and connected the consumers to consume the products. Now the target is 2 million small medium enterprise onboarding on the online market platform by the end of this year, and so far it has reached approximately 1.2 million SMEs boarding on the online marketplace. And it has been reported some of the businesses of the sellers reached double sales rate through this program. So that's one of the program that we use to help these creative businesses revive and survive. Now, to continue, as previously mentioned, the pandemic did give us challenge, but also lesson to be learned. Now, this is where the third stage, which is the preparation for the post-pandemic. Now, the world as we know it now, it has never been transformed digitally and so rapidly as what we are doing now, very now, here in present, having a webinar is one of the evidence how we are now doing things differently and most probably efficiently. It's just like now we have speakers from the UAE, we have speakers from the Geneva, thousands of miles away from here, but now we can have a discussion just on the Zoom. Zoom invented in 2012. And thanks to the pandemic, we are now able to connect the world in the most efficient way. And these changes in our society and as well as the working behavior has led us to refocus our direction within the creative sector. Now we are looking into the two major directions as the post-pandemic strategy. Now the first direction that we're looking at is the digital transformation in all the creative sectors. As we see that digitalization is our future of living and working, and as well as doing trading, creating a marketplace. Digitalization allow us to be borderless, and we have to be on front with the digitalization. Now, this is what's very important is to prepare, not only to prepare the infrastructure, but as well as to prepare the resources, the human resources, to be able and ready for the digital future. And the second focus on the strategy is the entrepreneurship. Now, with the digitalization, we're looking in the new breed of the digital conscious entrepreneur. Digitalization without the entrepreneurship could go nowhere, or entrepreneur without the digital consciousness could lead nowhere. Now, this is what we are looking for, and what we are preparing is to create this digital entrepreneurs. They will be the driver of the changes in various sectors of life. Now, we believe that both of the core needs for future competitiveness and for creative businesses in the future, where Indonesia creative economy will be based. So the two strategy, transforming digitalization and digital conscious entrepreneurship. Now we are currently building the strategy and creating the roadmap towards both. And we understand that we cannot do this alone. That's why we have to create allies who we can change knowledge, and of course building network. And this is where it's very important to keep the Bali agenda, which we declared in the first WCCE, continuously executed, and as well as to maintain the existence of the World Conference on Creative Economy. And in 2021, it will be the year of the creative economy. And we believe that this network, the Friends of Creative Economy, is much needed than ever to support each other in going through the pandemic and to prepare for a better future in the post-pandemic. So that will conclude and end of my presentation and my remarks. And again, I thank you for having us from the Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pak Joshua Simanjuntak. Dear ladies and gentlemen, participants of this webinar, we have just listened to the remarks of Pak Joshua Simanjuntak, who is the special advisor of the Minister for Tourism and Creative Economy on innovation and creativity. I take note on at least among others, I mean, several important points that he mentioned. The first one is the strong commitment of the government of Indonesia to develop a policy to support the livelihood of the creative economy sector, especially amid the pandemic. We have economic slowdown, and then especially during the lockdown, I also witnessed myself actually that several of my colleagues, they did not receive any requests to perform, for example, in the performing arts. And then some workers in the film industry, they just stopped producing anything for like 4 months or 5 months, and so on and so forth. Also, Pak Joshua mentioned about 2 strategies that are now being developed by the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy. And they are, first is the digital transformation of the creative economy sector. And then the second one is the strategy to develop digitally conscious entrepreneurship that are really important to cope with the progress of the digital economy in the future. Thank you, Pak Joshua, again. But please stay in this webinar because I believe there must be a lot of question, a lot of insight from other speakers or participants. Dear friends and participants, the second speaker that we have in our list now is His Excellency Sheikh Salem Al-Kashimi. He is the Assistant Undersecretary for Arts and Heritage at the Ministry of Culture and Youth of the United Arab Emirates. Mr. Sheikh Salim Khalid Al-Kashimi possesses various work experience with the UAE government. Previously, His Excellency oversaw product conformity issues as director with the Abu Dhabi Quality and Conformity Council, the QCC. He is also experienced with urban planning issues as assistant planning manager with Abu Dhabi Urban Planning Council. His Excellency's distinguished achievement include managing and overseeing the arts and heritage sector at the UAE Ministry of Culture and Youth, developing a nation level strategies on national identity, on orchestra development, on the Arabic language, on theater, and on literature, archaeology, film architecture, design, and arts. Oh, a very remarkable list indeed. Additionally, he was involved in the development of product conformity schemes, as well as the drafting of policies on behalf of the Abu Dhabi government, among other policies on green building guidelines and water energy management. His Excellency Al-Qasimi formal education started with bachelor degree in the Science of Design Management from the American University of Sharjah in Sharjah, the UAE. He then obtained from the Paris Sorbonne University a master's in urban and regional planning. Additionally, His Excellency also topped his public management formal training with a master's degree in public administration in environmental science and policy from New York's Columbia University School of International and Public Affairs. In this webinar, he will deliver his views on the challenges and opportunities related to the COVID-19 and creative economy sector. His Excellency Al-Qasimi, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Bachandra. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me at the talk today. We're very excited to share some of the initiatives that we have been working on with regards to the National Relief Program. I'd like to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Indonesia for inviting us and our close friends there for always keeping up the conversation when it comes to creative industries. If I can have the slides up, please. Thank you. I'm going to talk briefly about the initiatives that we faced during the COVID-19 pandemic and really bringing in the idea of what Joshua was talking about previously, the unique spirit of togetherness and how really we're very lucky to be in an industry where people are there for one another within the creative industries. So if we can just jump into the next slide and I can just start the presentation, please. So of course, just like everyone globally, when the first confirmed case of COVID-19 hit the UAE, there was an immediate action taken by different sectors in the government and different entities, whether federally or locally, in the idea of bringing awareness about this case, but more importantly, how is this pandemic going to affect several industries globally? Of course, as also Joshua mentioned, the creative industries, SMEs, freelancers will be hit hard by this pandemic, given that the majority of museums closed their doors, local and international cultural events and seminars were suspended, art exhibitions were indefinitely postponed. But we were lucky enough in the UAE where the leadership is extremely agile as well as innovative. So we were very simply and quickly able to transition our cultural initiatives on a federal level or on a local level into a more virtual platform. We had the readiness of that. And in fact, it brought a lot of awareness to us. And you know, with this experience, again, as Joshua said, which I completely agree with, there was a pressure to find solutions, a pressure to ensure that the creative and culture industries are performing better, whether from policies, whether from direct government support, or whether by incentive policies, whatever it is. There was a wide range of different policies and exercises that we realized could be a solution to a lot of issues that we are facing and that we will face in the future. Next slide, please. So the culture and procedures and initiatives that we looked about and that we noticed the family of the creative industries within the UAE were really looking at was economic catalysts and policies and incentives, as well as knowledge initiatives, virtual and cultural sessions, and digital cultural and artistic initiatives, which are all currently being transitioned into a new world that we're discovering of this digitalization. Next, please. I'm going to give a few examples of several entities within the sphere of creative and cultural economy and what they took as immediate actions towards hearing of the COVID-19 situation and what projects that they launched that could really assist the creative industries. The first thing that happened when we figured out that this is an issue is we called for an emergency meeting within our Culture and Creative Industries Councils, which is led by the Ministry of Culture and Youth and has leaders from different and various cultural entities across the UAE to discuss this and to see how we could tackle this issue. We also immediately, similar to the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy in Indonesia, we ran with a survey. And from this survey, we really wanted to figure out who will be the most impacted by this pandemic. And as expected, it was SMEs and freelancers that needed the most attention when it came to an economic support from the government. Other initiatives, such as the Office of Public and Cultural Diplomacy at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation in the UAE, purchased UAE artists worth of $400,000 to really support the artists, as well as to support the galleries within this tough time. Dubai Culture and Arts Authority launched a stimulus package for investors in cultural and heritage assets as well. TCOM Group in Dubai, Dubai's creative complexness and free zones supporting investors and sustainability was continuously ongoing. It actually was put up into speed during this time as well as Sarkal Avenue, which is the home to many art galleries and creative industries, offered 3 months rent-free spaces for its tenants. Next slide, please. More initiatives. There's a lot that came out. Dubai 360 engaged with art enthusiasts in the wider community to explore heritage and cultural venues in Dubai. Art Dubai created a digital launch of the Global Art Forum with more than 500 images and videos and talks program. It was just about Art Dubai was just about to be launched when the pandemic really hit hard. So they transitioned completely virtually within their talks and within the galleries. So people were contacting galleries directly virtually and purchasing art using their platform. Dubai Culture again and Arts Authority in collaboration with Art Dubai launched the initiative to invite proposals on creatives tackling the pandemic. As Sarkal Avenue again did another online tour of their galleries, given that all the galleries were shut down, completely transitioned into a virtual world. Of course, there's a lot of people who argue that art can't be seen virtual, but there was a lot of acceptance of this, given that a lot of people were sitting at home. So it was a good outlook into certain programming that we were able to provide people. The Art Jamil Center received applications for digital work and had a grant program in place. And the Ministry of Culture and Youth launched a VR tour of El Burda Endowment exhibition featuring 10 contemporary Islamic artworks. So basically, a lot of those initiatives transferred from being a physical exhibition into a digital one. And this is very important for all of us to note because this is the future. What could be digitized and what really needs a physical space is a question that we're all going to be asking going on after this year. Next, please. Of course, there's other initiatives as well, such as the Ministry of Culture and Youth encouraged community members and shared culture and artistic content on social media platforms. So everyone became more active on social media. Conversations were picked up from there. People were actually landing jobs through social media by working at home. It was great to launch this culture upfront to bring attention to the wider community that, okay, we are in a pandemic. However, what is the best way for us to move forward with other initiatives from you sitting at home and working at home, which is a concept that all of us, I think, was very unheard of. Abu Dhabi's Department of Culture and Tourism presented dynamic content from the Emirates culture and historical venues on its social media platform. Again, so it's not only on a federal level, but also on a local level. The New York University in Abu Dhabi launched their online tour online as well. The Sharjah-based Maraya Art Center launched an interactive online program with exhibitions. And then we see some different initiatives by SMEs that decided to step up and for themselves to provide other SMEs some assistance during this hard time. So there's a design studio in Sharjah called Fikra Design Studio. They extended their design services for free for health and charity organizations who are on the COVID-19 front line. So again, bringing back the idea of what Joshua was talking about, the unique spirit of togetherness within this industry, we're lucky to have seen that as well. Of course, the Sharjah Art Foundation as well gave out a grant for artists to produce new works equaling to $200,000. Next, please. Of course, there was a lot of knowledge initiatives as well. So the Sharjah Public Libraries gave free access to 6 million digital books from April to June 2020. A lot of people were spending a lot of time at home, didn't have access to libraries. So the Sharjah libraries went completely online and provided 6 million digital books, which is, again, something that we need to think of as lessons learned. Should those libraries be completely digitized or not? The Maktaba initiative by the Abu Dhabi Department of Culture and Tourism opened e-registration applications for its electronic library. The foundation, the Mohammed bin Rashid Knowledge Foundation, provided 300,000 titles and 3.5 million digital materials on its digital platforms. Globally, we're speaking, and not just regionally or locally here in the UAE. The Sharjah Book Authority and the festival from May 27th to June 5th featured renowned global writers, authors, and specialities, which also went completely virtual. And the number of Arabic speaker users accessing the New York University's digital library increased from 50,000 to 350,000 participants in March. So we see a huge shift of people going digital. Of course, there's the factor of the pandemic, the factor of needing to be home. However, we do predict that in the future, a lot of cultural initiatives will be using the digitization as a main point of contact towards its audience. Next, please. Again, more cultural sessions. So the Cultural Summit, of course, of Abu Dhabi was held digitally in collaboration with international cultural organizations. Barjeel Art Foundation organized weekly talks with artists around the world. The New York Arts Center organized online poetry evenings to continue public engagements with arts and humanities. And the Supreme Council for Family Affairs organized a seminar on how writers use pandemics and their writing in the past. So there was a lot of heavy content that we were witnessing starting from March, and we're still witnessing online. Of course, the country opened up a bit, galleries are accessible, design studios are open. However, there's still this crave of being online. Next, please. I want to talk about the Ministry of Culture and Youth and what we took as a measure during the pandemic. As soon as we heard of this pandemic and as soon as we launched the survey and found out that a lot of SMEs and freelancers will be negatively impacted during this time. And it's very worrying because this time is indefinite. We don't know when things will recover. We will see a recovery in a couple of months, given that the cities are more open up in general from the lockdown. But we decided to launch a national creative relief program where SMEs and freelancers apply to a grant directly to the Ministry of Culture and Youth, and where we provide those grants once they go through a rigorous assessment, an economic assessment for us to understand how impacted are they by the situation and how impacted will they be 3 months down the line. But in addition to that, also the freelancers. We will never forget freelancers who have a very important role within the fields of creative and culture industries in the UAE. So our targeted industries included natural and cultural heritage, performing arts and celebration, visual arts and craft, with that includes fine arts, photography, crafts and reproduction, books and publishing, creative design and services, audio and interactive media. And the program aims also to ensure the sustainability, of course, of the cultural production of the country and cement the UAE's position as an incubator for creativity, arts and culture, as well as affirm the criticality of supporting the creative sector in various circumstances. Next, please. So I'm going to share a few numbers and a bit on our experience of the National Creative Relief Program. We launched it in 2 phases. The first phase was open for applications on May. We received 357 freelance applications and 263 SMEs applications in the first phase of the launch of the product in May. Among these, 50 freelancers were granted and 337 SMEs were granted as well during the first phase of the National Relief Program. As I mentioned, the assessment really varies within two main criteria. One, how economically are they affected? And two, how much are they really contributing to the overall country's creative industry? So based on those two factors, we were able to select the ones that we could grant. And the ones that were more crucial to running out of business were the ones that we supported during the first phase. We launched the product again in a second phase in July, and we received 80 applications from freelancers and 100 applications from SMEs. The SMEs for the second phase were small companies, but up to 20 employees. Again, it's a grant given by the government, so there's a limit to how many grants we could be giving. In total, 71 freelancers received the grant in phase 1 and 2, and 69 SMEs received the grant in phase 1 and 2. And from what you can see on the chart right here, the pie chart is the different industries that applied for the grant. So we received a total of 437 freelancers from 58 nationalities. And as you can see on the chart, it's the percentages on the left is the freelancers and on the right is the SMEs of the different culture subsectors that we received. So I agree completely again with Joshua when he speaks about film or when he speaks about performing arts being affected that much. That's where we see 40 and 49% of applications actually came directly from SMEs and freelancers within the field of performing arts. So that was the most affected, I would say. Next comes audiovisual arts at 38% and 28% respectively. And this is what it is in a nutshell. So we see performing arts and audiovisual arts as the most impacted during the COVID-19 pandemic. Next, please. Of course, I also agree with Joshua when he says there's a pressure to find solutions. So within this experience, we realized that there is a lot of policy framework that we need to be working on, whether regulation, support, data building, IP rights, all of these need to be discussed into more detail as we're entering a world that's more digital, as we're entering a world that's more competitive between SMEs and freelancers. In order to have a healthy dynamic of the creative industries, there's a lot of work that we need to be doing in terms of policy framework, and I think on a global level and not just on a national level. Next, please. Thank you. This is what I have for you today, and I'll be very happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I have problem a little bit here. Thank you very much, His Excellency Al Kashimi. It's a very comprehensive and a very interesting presentation you provided us. I take note on a lot of various program and initiative that you have in United Arab Emirates, especially to support the creative economy sector in UAE amid this pandemic. I hope you will stay on the line to and ready to answer several questions that later will be posed to you. Now, let us move to the next speaker. Dr. Marisa, are you here? Are you with me? Dr. Marisa, are you ready to give the presentation?
Yes, I am.
¿Cómo estás?
Bien, muy bien.
Gracias a Dios. Dr. Marisa Henderson is not only a good friend of mine, but she's also the Chief for Creative Economy Program of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. She's based in Geneva. And well, it is still morning in the Geneva, and I do appreciate you sparing some time from what is usually a hectic morning. I don't know whether you have a hectic morning this morning. Are you still working from home, or you're going to the office right now, Marisa?
We're starting to go back to work on a part-time basis.
Okay. Okay, that's good. That's good. It means that everything is going to be normal, even slowly, step by step. Uh,
Yes.
well, I don't want to without further ado, I would like to invite you to present to deliver your presentation, Marisa. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I'm really happy that we have the two previous speakers before me, because it shows the importance of the national measures that countries need to take to overcome this crisis. So what I'm going to provide is an overview of the global crisis from a general point of view. And if there is a message that I think I would like to provide, is that this is, despite the fact that countries need to take their own measures, we need to work together, because this crisis as a whole, international cooperation will be crucial to not only to overcome the recession worldwide in general, but particular on creative industries. So international cooperation will be very important. So the 2021 year of creative economy is even more important now than it was when the resolution was agreed upon, because we actually need international action. So concerted action on the part of countries to provide relief and to help developing countries to overcome the recession that it will come out as a result of this crisis. So let me just read some of the ideas to go in in an order, and then I will finish with some some key issues. So what happened? I think the COVID-19 was a shock. So it came and it shocked the world. So I think now we need, after there was an immediate disruption, particularly for the creative industry. So now that things, as we were saying, are starting to renew action and activity, it's time to step back and learn some lessons. In terms of creative industries, and given the importance that these industries have for developing countries and countries such as Indonesia, the United Arab Emirates, it is pertinent that UNCTAD sees that there is a dark side and a light side. So there is a dark and a light, and a positive light. On the one hand, we can draw on creativity, innovation, and inspiration of the artists across the world to relieve the crisis that this pandemic has caused. On the other, creative industries are among the most vulnerable in terms of jobs, and the creation, the production of the production is very, very difficult in times of a pandemic, particularly like live entertainment events, shows, tours, even tourism plummeted. So this is the dark side, the immediate disruption and the difficult lasting effect that we have. However, there is an upside, and the upside is the digital innovation, because digital innovation is driving the upside. the demand for creative goods, and more specifically services, delivered digitally has never been greater than right now. Until this month published an analysis pointing out that the impact of COVID on the digital economy, and it has found that aside from depending on the internet to do our jobs, go to school, do shopping, keeping informed and connected, it has become a main source of entertainment. Who is doing the entertainment? The creatives all over the world. And these are the lifeblood of the creative industries. To deliver services, they have turned into digital platforms to offer respite to their fans and followers. They have also tried to regain some of the lost revenue as their live shows came to a halt. In light of, for example, just to give you focus on the Caribbean, on a region, some of the region's largest festivals in the Caribbean, for example, took place digitally. When the crisis started, the fashion shows in Europe were in Milan, in Paris, were programmed to be scheduled online, and they went digitally. Some were cancelled, but they were able to transform. Now, for the developing countries, and for example, for the Caribbean, this is very, very important because the creative economy generally consists of micro and small and medium-sized enterprises. So they put businesses at risk and of bankruptcy. So while they were in a vulnerable position, they were able to recover thanks to the digital economy. Now, let me just talk a little bit about the downside, a bit more in terms of economy, because this is going to have a lasting effect in the economy as a whole. The projections of potential impact of the COVID-19 on the economies around the world for the year 2020 varied enormously, widely. UNCTAD has done a lot of research, and there is but while the projections vary, there is a broad agreement that the global economy will contract, given the sudden stop to large of the activities, resulting in loss of income in the manufacturing and services sectors across most advanced economies and China, combined with adverse effects on financial markets, consumption, and investment confidence, international trade, and commodity prices. Many developing countries were slowing down in the final quarter of 2019, with several entering into recession. However, the speed at which the economic shock to advanced economy has hit developing countries is dramatic, even in comparison to the 2008 global financial crisis. Now, UNCTAD research of the 2000 global crisis showed that the flow of international trade on goods and services had been resilient. And while the financial crisis affected the creation and production and distribution of creative goods, its trade performance generally had been consistent with an average of growth of 7% between 2002 and 2015. So the 2008, what we're saying is, despite the fact that 2008 had been a very important crisis, international flows, trade, international creative goods and services have been resilient and have provided growth. However, this crisis is different. So we still, as the previous speakers were saying before, we will need to do the monitoring next year to see the impact of the 2019 trade. But for the creative industries in particular, the slowdown of the economy will put a downward pressure on consumer spending, disposable income, and additionally, consumers may change in terms of individuals' propensity to consume cultural and creative products, goods and services. So unfortunately, this is not a rosy picture. One thing that is very important is that creative and culture and creative industries are job-intensive sectors. That's why it may be so important for governments. The projections is that the ILO estimates that about 29.5 million jobs are employed worldwide in the creative industries, which is about 1% of the world active population. So the creative economy also supports balanced city and regional development, as well as countries' international attractiveness as touristic destinations. Public investment in the cultural and creative industries will be particularly relevant to fight unemployment worldwide. As I mentioned before, the movement restrictions of the COVID, many creatives have started to use the digital platform and technologies. So given the important role that the digital creative services have had for the creative industries, it will be crucial for countries to be ready in the new normal to have a digital strategy in place that is adapted to the needs of each country in accordance to their development needs. So there is also there's a need for many developing countries to develop specific policies for sustainable and new technologies in the creative industries that reflects the unique nature of the sector, such as micro and small business that form the backbone of the sectors. This means encouraging development of relevant capabilities and technological solutions, promoting, as the previous speaker had mentioned, promoting successful business models, removing barriers to the adoption and reducing environmental impact and enhancing social value. The 2021 year of international economy for sustainable development will be very, very important, and they will be for us to promote this. What are the key things that I want to start leave you with, the key messages that I would like to leave you with? The development of culture and creative sectors is essential to making countries' prosperity better for all. Culture and creative industries are job intensive and support balanced regional development as well as countries' international attractiveness. The culture and creative sectors were the ones that were hit first with the crisis, and they are likely to be one of the last to recover from COVID. Some of the impacts of restrictions on the cultural and creative industries could be irreversible. Customers' behaviors will be key to the recovery of the sector, as well as a good strategy in terms of employment, given the importance of the large numbers of people who in each country depend on creative industries. We need to plan, we need to tailor, as the speakers have shown, we need to tailor, of course, the policies to each country's needs, but we also need a coordinated approach, international approach that will support this. So international coordination will be crucial. Another important thing that I would like to mention briefly are two things. One is circular economy, and the other is the e-commerce policy solution. Circular economy, with regard to related industries, could be an interesting nexus to take into account as we recover for the crisis. The nexus goes beyond simply recycling and managing waste. Rather, it means designing products, processes, and services that optimize the use of resources. So when something reaches the end of a useful life, we need to reuse, repair, remanufacture, and redesign. So creative economy presents a unique, fundamental opportunity to address how create new value in our economies. And I think the change in production patterns generates an increase in the demand for labor-intensive activities, which present new opportunities for the youth, entrepreneurship, employment, and skills development. So I think this is part of the solution to get out of the crisis. And e-commerce policy solution is my last, not my last, but almost the final point I'd like to make. Is that given the important role that the digital creative services for creative industries has, it is crucial that countries ready themselves for the new normal and adopt digital strategies in line with their development needs. For these, countries need to formulate national e-commerce strategies that take into account their creative industries and include an action plan with recommendation for targeted policies interventions. So I think digital platforms will be, UNCTAD has done a service on digital platforms, and we see that there are underlying challenges in the creative sectors in many developing countries. There are challenges. This includes collection of fees and royalties for artists, values of various copyright and intellectual property challenges, privacy and personal data protection rules, illegal downloads, piracy, and counterfeiting. So added to this is the limited limited scale in the market. We know, UNCTAD has done the survey, and we know that this is a big challenge. So digital platforms are useful for survival, but the scale is key. It is important that countries use a national strategy, puts a national e-commerce strategy in place to help identify solutions for the creative industries to be able to overcome this. So these were my key messages, and my last message is the one I made at the very beginning, and I think the International Year of Creative Economy takes a new, more important fundamental role in terms of coordination and cooperation on creative industries. So as Chandra mentioned, it will be very important next year in Bali. I see three main key drivers for next year important. One is Bali. When we meet in Indonesia. The next one will be UNCTAD 15, which is going to take place in April in 2021. It will be a very, very important time for countries' governments to come together and give UNCTAD, the UN, a mandate on creative economies to work together and overcome this crisis. And finally, the United Arab Emirates at the end of the year. So these three pillars, let's take advantage of these fora that we have next year and help each other and coordinate and create multilateral solutions to overcome this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Muchísimas gracias, Doctora Marisa. It is a very, very comprehensive and insightful presentation that we heard from Dr. Marisa Henderson, Chief of Creative Economy at the United Nations Conference on Creative Economy, a United Nations Conference on trade and development. I'm so sorry. I'm too creative in this. Well, I'm pleased to take note on the several important points that Dr. Uh, Henderson uh, underlined in her presentation. The first one is the changes of customer behavior that should be identified and then really comprehend by the creative economy actors so they can uh, reconfigure it, perhaps not only their product but also their business model to meet the demand of the market, the customer. The second one is her notion on the importance of using the concept of circular economy to promote creative economy to the top level, to the next level. And then the third one is the e-commerce solution for creative economy. That is a very, very important points, a very crucial points that she mentions in her presentation. Uh, Now, let me move to the next speakers in our list. Let me say hi to Mr. Louis Saluaji. Pak Louis, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, Pak.
Okay. Pak Louis is a deputy chairman of the Design-Based Creative Industry Permanent Committee of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce. Uh, he received his formal education in law from Universitas Trisakti and started his early career as attorney at law in an American petroleum company. He then became CEO and owner of a holding company with businesses in investment services, legal and financial services, as well as IT services. Up to this date, the portfolio of the holding company has grown to also cover creative products from Indonesia and investment in creative sector. Within the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Louis has been responsible for committee that deals with fashion and drawing-based creative product development. He will deliver his thought in this important webinar on the challenges and opportunities related to the COVID-19 and creative economy sector. Pak Louis Saluaji, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Pak. Good afternoon, everybody. My greatest respect to Pak Dirjen, Pak Febrian, dan Pak Bowo, His Excellency Mr. Al-Kashimi, and of course Pak Joshua, Pak Chandra, Ibu Tita, dan Marisa Anderson. I'm Louis Saluaji from the Indonesian Chambers of Commerce, the Department of Creative Industry. We are now having several consists of creative sector, which is movie, food and beverage, music, fashion, art, culture, performance, application and marketplace, and last but not least, on advertisement. We are representing the industry and the personal stakeholders. Today's discussion will be the challenges and opportunities in Indonesia amid the COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to add a keyword to this pandemic that we're having. The commerce has been talking to every major industry. We have been meeting hundreds of times, and the key part is how to make these challenges and use them as opportunities. We see it looking from the ground level, which is the business of medium-sized companies, which is very large in Indonesia, what we call UMKM. And we want their existence to still be there despite of the pandemic. So how does this will apprehend and make use of it to become a business which is beneficially to them? And in those long terms, we hope that it can build a sustainable, more productive human capital. Next, please. The remedy or the solution to this, I probably want to ask you to join me into the corporate sector, which the eyes and feel to be a businessman or a businesswoman, and you are a medium-sized company. What we see now is probably the most important three facts. That is the drop of the consumer spending massively. Consumers are doing and buying urgent spending. They do not spend unless it has to do with anything regard to the pandemic. The second thing is the gathering limitation of social distancing, which eventually becomes an issue when it comes to performance, gathering, and etc. Those two are resulting the feel of insecure, fear of socializing, of the contagious, and the ability to socialize and make businesses. Resulting to that is the changes of consumer behavior. The effect of the facts, what happened, we all know, is the reduction of production. Factory closed, factory changed their production from clothing into face masks, into other things that related to the pandemic. The reduction of production directly reduced the workforce, which is unemployment. We have massive unemployment in Indonesia right now, and we are still trying to connect this with the government to let's form how to handle the unemployment, which is now going above 100,000. Of course, if the factory is closed, the workforce is gone, the supply and the demand interference is very high. What are the result of the effects? The changes of consumer behavior. So if I may, the fact and the effect of these two is consumer behavior. As the remedy and solution narrowing on consumer behavior, we will look at the possibilities and probabilities in resulting to their spending. How do we challenge the consumer? That's probably the most important issue. We try to look at the consumer and how can we build benefit opportunities from the consumer. There is an issue which in line with today's topics is the challenges, consumer challenges. I probably want to take you into three major importance of consumer buying at the moment. Slide selanjutnya, please. Thank you. In the midst of the pandemic, what does consumer wants and need? I think there's so many things, of course. I'm taking three aspects, which is the daily goods, which are urgent. That is food and beverage, homemade cooking, healthy food, supplement drinks. On the second is specific utilities product, which is face mask, gloves, hand sanitizer, cooking pantries, cleaning equipment. On the third, because of the limitation of gathering, the sports individual sport has been growing up rapidly. As you know, sports individual means bicycle, table tennis, ping pong, which you only play with two. They're going jogging, they're going hiking. These product actually goes up. The intensity of the needs, because everybody is doing self healing at this time of the pandemic. Consumer needs in this challenge is, we can conclude of three most important segments, as I mentioned. They are the most wanted list. How can this product we apprehend and become an opportunity? The chamber see this as a big movement. We can ask the medium-sized companies to build and move towards to restructuring their business and make new things. The opportunities are very simple, actually. Next, please. If the daily goods and urgent increase of product, increasement of varieties, due to the increasement of needs on the daily goods, we need more varieties. As Pak Dirjan mentioned, people are making beautiful design face masks. That's one of the samples, and that also we can also enhance that into a better, more varieties of other product. And on the utilities product, increasement of a variety is also needed, and also on the sport health individual. A varieties of bicycle, which is from a lower pricing bicycle into a high cost bicycle. It's all going very, very well through the pandemic issues. How can we see that? Local bicycle manufacturing has increased their production from 25 bicycle on 2019 into 275 bicycle in March 2020. There is a very significant amount of increasement. But nevertheless, import bicycle that is sold by companies or stores also has been doing a very good sales. This segment's opportunity can be built. The varieties can be built due to the high demand. Alternative product offer or more varieties, but in the same categories and specification. This is what we're trying to educate the small, medium-sized industry. Look, here is the most important part of the pandemic. How can we make use of this? How can we all take a part and participate on it? Local manufacturing, medium-sized house producing UMKM, and government also can participate on this event. How can we fulfill these specs and produce? This is there is some know-how that we have to understand that we can participate on the production. I probably put about 4 know-how. The first thing is product knowledge increasement. We do small size education, an online education on knowledge, so they understand how to build and do the production. Secondly is the quality, that it brings the product into uniqueness or become a premium. Premium is another issue here. If we want to talk about businesses, sustainable buyers at the moment is premium. Premium is one of the largest contributor at the pandemic to generate income for the medium-sized company. For instance, I give you samples. We have a house-made, a homemade cooking, which eventually she started because she was laid off, and then made huge profits on it just under 4 months. She's doing a very simple cooking, which is Indonesian cooking with more taste, more what you call, you can keep it longer in the fridge. So it's not a thing that is easily rotten. The thirdly is a market friendly. A market friendly product must be made to the specification of the consumer. And last but not least, the product must have a high performance or durable applicable capacity, and has to be a strong and non-easy, easy to be clean, those kind of stuff. Next, please. So how do we make of this? We, and what the government has done, the president has done also, try to educate people that have been laid off to study and actually make self-product development business people. Now, if you have a server product that is in line with the needs of today's market, pick one or two that has the highest sales value, most highest sales. This will increase your cost efficiency on your production and make use of the savings to better presentations such as packaging, delivery service, and doing a huge marketing call person-to-person sales. We have tried to do this in one or two companies which doing fashion. It went very well. So they have around 10 products. They choose 2, which is the highest sales, and use the production money to do presentation better. They deliver free delivery service, more upline packaging material, and doing a marketing call. This actually helps a lot in the marketing system at this time of pandemic. You can use also your efficiency cost to do research on better product that is in line with the current production line. So do not change your production line. Instead, do more investment in how to make a better product that consists with the same line of production that you have. Next slide, please. The thirdly, is product quality. The product has to be unique and high added value. A product significantly has to be great. For instance, have to be an eye-catching product or a delightful taste, or that has the intriguing effect. So a great desire to have is the key. We're doing marketing on so many levels right now. You name it all, on all platforms. It's Instagram, it's Facebook, it's everything. So taking picture, an eye-catching product is very important. So how will this happen? So we make several photography like Darwis to educate on how to make an eye-catching product to be sellable on the market. So the product can be viewed as excellent, and this can also be done nowadays with a video and other forms of marketing. The most important part when doing the marketing, next please, is building a consumer relation and sales program. consumer relation can uplift, and sales program has to be give to a full benefit. Consumer uplift is one-to-one basic relation, a call with a simple gesture of greetings. The keyword is know your customer better. The sales program is full benefit of offering the full discount, buy one, get one, etc. and everything. This relation approach and program can be implemented with the great sales event like what we have, the Jakarta Great Sales, a few weeks ago. And a more intimate personal approach can be also done and can do more tailor-made product. This actually helps the small size, medium size industry. A lot of batik maker, of course, there is a very low consumer buying batik at nowadays. But if the batik becomes a face mask, something that is useful for their daily use, it will be more saleable. Next, please. Out of all that, we see as a business business person and as the doing the business community, we can take a lot of benefits actually in the midst of COVID-19. As long as we want to see that disruption can create benefit, the momentum is there. This is what we're trying to educate every businessman and every company. If you can see the momentum, it's actually helping you and spared you from the stagnancy that we had a long few years back. And you can see that your company probably doing production, for instance, 100 kilos a day can become 200 due to the pandemic, and using the right methods and product can be sold and needed upon the pandemic. Also, we are spared of non-productive humans. If we can see this, a lot of people has been unemployed, jobless because of their non-productive humans. Some companies still keep the valuation of the company in looking which person to be what you call it unemployed and still keeping them is the fact of productive of human. And from there on, we can also spare from the labor-intensive industries. This momentum is an acceleration to create new hope essential to the workforce, especially the productive age, into a platform of high capabilities, ready to use workforce, and of course, it means human capital. Acceleration system must work in the government sector, which I'm very happy today that the Minister of Foreign Affairs is doing it. We need the other ministry also, the industry and the trade ministry is doing the same thing. We hope we can actually build one platform where all ministers are gathered in one meeting like this, talking on the same level, on the same agenda, which is how to benefit the momentum. That's it. Because at the end of the day, we have to use this. We have to use this time of pandemic to create beneficially to all of us. We lost a lot of person, of course. We lost a lot of human beings. But then again, we have to embrace ourselves hand in hand that we still have the opportunity and the capabilities on helping each other. We still have a lot of what we call productive age that's now confused of what to do. They finish their school, their graduation, and don't know where to start. So that probably can can accelerate their interest in doing privatization, UMKM, and self-made businessmen. And of course, there's also has to be followed through on the educational sector and easy capital, which is easy capital is already big now in Indonesia. A lot of access has been made. OJK, which is the financial institution body that holds has been doing very well in looking such as personal access to capital and crowdfunding. But then the fourth, which most important, that we can make use of this disruption for making a new economic enhancement. So that is the base in which we see on the business sector. We have to really be ready that at the end of the life, which will eventually come, we don't know when, there will be a lot of changes. So these changes we have to be ready on these changes. We have to make the not only the employees and the government, but also the most important thing is the consumer, because this is what it is right now. Consumer spending goes down. If consumer spending still can generate and do the buying, we probably won't go under 5%, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, nowadays we're minus 5% on the economy. So that's probably the acceleration which I can offer you today. Hope is beneficial to all of us. Thank you very much, Bapak. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Pak Louis. Thank you very much, Pak Louis, for a very optimistic. That's what I want to call your presentation, because what we listened to Pak Louis just now is how he sees like opportunities in the crisis. I always remember the Chinese character for crisis also mean opportunities, and that's how businessmen like Pak Louis see in the crisis there is opportunities, because that's how we can always spread the word of optimisms to other businessmen, including creative economy actors. And he put it in a very detailed presentation on how to deal with the changing behavior of the customers, how it affect the business process, affect the decision of the producers to adjust the product, the sales activity to cope with the changes in customer behavior. Thank you very much, Pak Louis. And now let us move to the last speaker. Well, of course, last but not least, my good friend, Ibu Dr. Tita Larasati, the chairwoman of the Creative City Forum. This is an Indonesian network of creative cities with a very mature creative industry in Bandung. Apa kabar Bu Tita?
Baik Pak, terima kasih.
Bu Tita has a multiple current occupation. She is also a lecturer. She's industrial designer, researcher with the Faculty of Fine Arts and Design of the Institute Teknologi Bandung, where she graduated or obtained a bachelor degree in design from the Industrial Design Department. Dr. Tita also not only in her alma mater at the Bandung Institute of Technology, Dr. Tita also teaches in other universities such as Parahyangan, Universitas Paramadina, Universitas Trisakti, and the International Design School in Jakarta. Graduated from the Bandung Institute of Technology, Dr. Tita obtained a master degree in design research, industrial design from the Design Academy in Eindhoven, the Netherlands. She, she eventually topped her academic achievement with a doctoral degree from the Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands. She is here to share with us her take on the challenges and opportunities related to the COVID-19 and creative economy sector. Mbak Tita, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Pak Chandra. Thank you, everyone. I hope everybody's still very much energized now. I'm going to put this on full screen. Yeah, I was mentioned as an academia, but I'm also actually active in communities. So I'm here invited as the chairwoman for Bandung Creative City Forum, forum that we already have since 2008. And the theme that was given to me was the challenges and opportunities in developing creative city. So the context will be on the city development. Aside from BCCF, I'm also active in Indonesia Creative Cities Network, which I will mention later in the presentation as well, as the Deputy of Strategic Partnership. And I'm also the focal point of Bandung City of Design. We are a member of UNESCO Creative Cities Network since 2015. And I'm also lately become an international advisory council for Creative Industries Policy and Evidence Center UK. So we are giving input from many parts of the world of how to make policy and regulations and facilitation from the government based on evidence and experience. So a bit about the Bandung Creativity Forum, which is a group of people from many different backgrounds. Some of us are designers like me, but we have also architects, media people, VJs, even lawyers, environmentalists, and so on. But we formed ourselves in 2008 because we thought that, okay, let's not wait for anyone to do something with the city, because we want the city to provide us more space to express ourselves and to be able to do interventions and so on. So then we form ourselves as a community hub. So we are from different backgrounds as well. And since we form ourselves, we make a lot of prototypes of how the city can work better for us and how the city can provide us more pleasant experience and so on. So we just did our interventions in many fields. As you can see here, some intersections, we take on the river, we make a bike sharing and so on. And everything here is non-public budget. So we raise the budget ourselves. We do our activities based on our energy, time, and thoughts and everything. So it has to do with mobility and so on and so on. So we use this kind of activism to make an argument that we are using design or design thinking as our creative uh, capital. And this is the in the colorful things you see in the left hand side. That's actually the formula that we submit to UNESCO when we argue that Bandung in West Java in Indonesia is actually a creative city of design, but not in the sense that design is only this object with certain aesthetic values or commercial values, but design also as a way of thinking of the people of Bandung itself to solve their own problems through prototypes, through experience, and so on. And on the right hand side is how we see the city, because the city is not unlike a human body. It's also an organic entity. It has the center of thinking, center of breathing. It has its own lines for distributing energy, distributing nutrition, and also distributing garbage pool, and so on. So if we see the city as a sick person, if the city is there's something wrong with it, then we usually use this needle of acupuncture to put in a just small area of the city. But then if we do it repeatedly, just like the needle, and if we do it consistently, then we hope to heal the city bit by bit through this kind of activism. So bringing this kind of concept, so we keep working on the city like that. And all cities in UNESCO Creative Cities Network, they all have this commitment to actually use the potentials of their creativity to solve or to answer the challenge of sustainable development goals. Um, and also to implement the new urban agenda, which is to implement SDG at the local level. So we've been working on this too. And also referring to UNESCO Culture Urban Future publication, we have these keywords that cities will be more human-centered. So the keywords are, for example, human-oriented cities. So if you build something, you build a hardware infrastructure, then you think about the people first instead of, for example, vehicles or other hardware facilities. Sustainable urban economy, also Marisa mentioned earlier about circular economy, it's also included here. Human scale, compact, mixed use, inclusive public spaces, peace and tolerance, resilience, and then improvement in urban governance and so on. And then I'm also referring to this smart city conference that happened in Jaipur in 2018. That smart doesn't always mean very advanced technology or very expensive device, but then actually how you connect people and policy, people and government with the technology that you have at hand. And it's also there's an opportunity due to the acceleration of technology development that 50% of future jobs are not yet created, and we still have to think about it. If we think about now, we have now occupation that didn't exist 5-10 years ago. If you ask maybe any young people, maybe in the basic school level, then maybe they said, I want to be an influencer, I want to be a YouTuber, which is not in thoughts in maybe 5 years ago and so on. So we also have to use this digitally enabled everything to actually connect also urban rural uh, partnerships and so on. And then still a city is an organic entity, so the solution should also be organic, so it doesn't have to be very rigid and so on. And I also refer to Susanna Skalskas. She's one of the founder of Dutch Design Week, and she's predicting trend in a sense of how people will behave, how people will do their daily lives and so on. So some keywords are, for example, industrial revolution and urbanization. What does the revolution has to do with urbanization? Because soon we'll have aging population after 2050. For most Asian countries or developing countries, we still have this so-called demographic bonus. But if we don't do anything to these young people and let them loose and not giving not providing direction or opportunities for expressions and all, it's not going to be a demographic bonus, it's going to be demographic disaster and so on. So how would you use this kind of industrial revolution technology to accelerate actually technological change? And then also donut economics, which is also circular economy. Because if you say companies are really increasing, it's not really true, because companies are no longer developing, because market for recycled products are still growing. So instead of digging new minerals or new material resources and so on, people tend to reuse what's there, to retreat the material that's already out, and to stop cutting trees and digging minerals and so on, in the in the attempt to really take care of the earth and so on. And economic growth is no longer measured by GDP only. So people start making these indexes for happiness and so on. The hierarchy of Maslow needs has shifted. People now looking also for chargers, for energy, not only for food only. And then there's post-industrial creativity. Cities are inclined to become villages and vice versa, and so on. And this is a bit about ICCN, because BCCF, the Bandung Creative City Forum, is not itself in one city happening, but also it happens all over Indonesia. And we gathered this kind of communities. Now we form ourselves in 2015. And this year, 2020, we have gathered more than 200 cities and regencies in Indonesia with the same ideas. So there are also movements of communities that takes care of their own community in their own cities and regencies. And all are committed to the 10 principles of Indonesia Creative Cities that we committed ourselves to. So far, ICCN has been working on this many points actually, and we have representing Indonesia in the UCLG Culture Summit, in the World Culture Forum, in World Urban Forum in Abu Dhabi this year, just before the lockdown. And we are the knowledge partner of U20, which is the working group of G20 in composing the recommendation, policy recommendation about creative economy, which I will also tell later. Um, so moving together, we know that we can connect our potentials and then also help each other, which in the end will come up to the social innovation. And then suddenly the world has to come to a stop or a pause because of this pandemic. And then so what would you do next, because there's no reference before of how you would continue your life. And if I may quote a bit from one of our senior ministers already, Emil Salim, he had this speech on his 90th birthday, and it's amazing the energy that he still retains at this age. So he mentioned about that Indonesia especially is a society of communities. It's Gemeinschaft instead of the Gesellschaft. So we always say that we always includes you. So it's kita, so it's you and I. And we have this gotong royong, like Pak Joshua mentioned earlier in the session, and social solidarity. So when the epidemic came, we are forced to have this limited mobility and limited physical interactions. And this is not easy for us because we are used to really hanging out together and so on. Emil even said that I can understand those people who insist on taking the body of the deceased one from the virus, from the isolation, and then bury it themselves, because this is how our society works. And then we are forced to having this kind of meeting through with digital technology. Of course, we have to conduct our schooling, working, and so on digitally, and there's still a huge gap, of course, as we know it. But then Pa Emil mentioned to not forget our characteristic as this people of community, people with the sense of community. Don't lose it. So this is still a huge opportunity to for us to find a way how to conduct this really really comfortably for everybody. And then I also quote Charles Landry here, that he's done a lot of also discourse about city and creativity. So in post-virus rethinking, cities usually face this reduction of climate emission because we see there are less cars, less motor vehicle in the street, less planes, and so on. Then we should also reassess the impact of culture and art. If I may quote Landry as well, because art is mostly the one that in development you see the latest as to be supported. But then the question is not what is the value of arts, but what is the cost for not valuing arts and culture in the development. So this has to do with mental health, this has to do with expressions, and so on. And this condition has accelerated the digital turn. So of course we have been moving to digital lifestyles ever slowly, but then this virus makes us accelerate, force us to really do the digital lifestyle very abruptly. This also shift how we work and socialize, um, and then there's also other dilemmas. We have all the urgencies that we actually already doing. So for example, we have been taking public transportation, but then because of the virus, the number of the people in the bus passengers has to be limited. So people are back to the private vehicles and so on. And even in bicycle now become a fad, but then the production is increasing, and then you have to really redefine how would you do it in the street and so on. And we already also, because nobody can go out as before, so we start taking food in the house, but then they have to be repackaged, they have to be delivered in a safe boxes and so on. And this will add to the garbage of packagings and so on. And this is also how we should rethink about. And talking about spaces in the city, still from Charles Landry, there are post-pandemic places that actually make people change how they interact in public spaces. So according to health and safety, for example, the previous disease makes people change how the city was designed. So he mentioned about the cholera disease, and they caused the city to redesign the sewer system. And in Indonesia, when we have the pest in the colonial era, then the colonial government right away make a manual about how you should build your house with foundations and so on, so rats don't nest in it and so on. So this pandemic also will force us to redesign our city in a way that maybe we should create, I don't know, bubbles or safe spaces for individuals or groups, so they don't gather in crowds anymore, and so on. So gathering together, moving around, mobility, and they rely on the young generation to lead the return, because they may be the one who are more savvy with the technology and so on. We have to rebalance the urban and rural connection as well, and then we should just, I don't know when, but then drug or vaccine, and then the return after people are already have this kind of measure for this virus, they would then, will they go back to the old lifestyle, or will they have other consciousness about how to behave in the city as a citizen? So if we have to define culturally creative, livable, self-sustaining places, then maybe people are not now labeling a place with the name of the function, like this is an office, or this is a swimming pool, this is a, I don't know, playground, but then it should be a place of a mixing purpose. So it should be a place of encourage, a place of possibility, a place where you can connect and network, a place of inspiration, and a place of learning. And it can be a shared space, it can be a place that with a multifunction and so on. So this is back to the ICCN, the Indonesia Creative Cities Network. When the COVID hit, so we right away made a, a survey. So we have data of our friends or communities who get impacted by the virus. So this data we gathered, and we also, so we have this Aksi Bersama is a working group that we formed on purpose to help our fellow communities in these 200 cities in Indonesia. So, for example, this is what we have done since May to July, and this is done by ourselves. So we didn't use any support from the government, but this is a really bottom-up initiative. So we start with making classes, online classes to upskill and to reskill our community fellows, and we have this data of those communities who are impacted. We've made this video of optimism and tours, but also while making these videos, we are training our friends to also be editors, music background engineers, and so on. And we have distributed this much helps, especially for example, the food packages. It's for people who usually work in performing traditional arts, but because they are not invited anymore to perform in events, and they don't have income anymore, so we distribute the food to them. And the food comes from farmers who don't get any marketplaces then, and then we connect them through corporations and through communities and so on. So we have this this
Uh, Budita, I think we have problem with your connection, Budita. Uh, admin, perhaps admins can check whether it is my connection or Budita's connection who is freeze on my screen. Pak Bowo.
It seems Budita's connection, Pak Chandra.
Okay.
So,
Budita. Okay. Hello, Budita.
Yeah.
So, we lost you for about 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, perhaps you can repeat what you have just said for the last 2 minutes, Bu.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My connection is funny. Yeah, so back to this slide, I think we've seen this one, I think. And this is an effort of how you would put manually out warning of how you would do everyday trading, because people cannot just be locked down. Everyone cannot just stay home because people are still finding their income from the streets. And this is how we try to make the measure. I put it on full screen again. And this is what we did with Design Ethnography Lab at ITB. So people have been making their own tools and devices to keep the house healthy and so on. And we translate it into different languages so people can also make it themselves with materials that they have at home. So people can make their own masks, they can make their own washing devices and so on. So now I will present some of the UNESCO Creative Cities of Design attempt how they respond to this COVID. So for example, Dundee, they make this kind of campaign of what people want during this uh, COVID, and then um, have it on their Instagram. And this in Montreal, they make the competition about how you would design your city in this kind of situation. Saint Etienne is putting out this kind of do-it-yourself furnitures and so on that people can just make at home while they're having maybe more time in their hands now. Geelong is making this kind of pod so people, elderly people, can safely meet and uh, interact with their families, visitors, and so on in this kind of situation. Singapore is making this kind of products that make people can still be in touch with each other, but then in a safety measure and so on. And this is in Kaunas. They bring culture to the courtyards. So instead of people going to theaters, they bring the arts to the middle of the street and do it there, interacting with the audiences which are in their own homes. This is in Helsinki. Usually in May, they have this huge gathering at this city hall. But then because of the situation, they have to gather virtually. So you make your own avatar and you attend the event virtually, but then you can see yourself there. So they're using this technology to really still interact, and they do it again in June for another event. These kind of examples then makes us thinking, how might we then create urban narrative, which is new. So we have to rethink, we have to redesign urban narrative, the opportunities and challenges. But then because of that, I mentioned before that ICCN, Indonesia Creative Studies Network,
udah keluar barang lu udah keluar.
Indonesia Creative Studies Network has been the knowledge partner for U20 in writing the white paper on policy recommendations. And in this time, the title is Inclusive Creative Economy and the Future of Work. Marisa here is actually also one of the contributor for this paper. So our point is, if we want to reach the SDG, we have to mind that we have these stakeholders, academia, government, business sectors, financial institutions, and we again we have to center everything in people and community. So it's going to be human-centered cities. And then if we want to create how the future of work through technology and how to use technology to connect instead of to divide, or use technology, we know there are gaps, but then how would you translate that into opportunities and so on. And we argue that in this paper that actually creative industries and creative economy in general is actually among the sectors that can provide inclusive work opportunities. So, well, the paper is also, of course, many pages long, but then this is the part of the conclusions. And so towards answering the SDG, because of the COVID, we have to go through this kind of phase. Mitigate and survive for some people is still crucial. And then we have to go through the phase of recovering, and then reestablishing and redeveloping of what we have been doing in maybe a new way. And then we have to grow and sustain in the end. So this is my last slide. So that paper now is already given to the U20 communique, and then perhaps hopefully will be given to G20 leaders to implement in their own cities. So we have this 3 points of skills that we actually really work day by day in creative economy sectors. One is high order cognitive skills, because usually people who works in creative industries, they have this originality, always actively seeking out new business ideas to enhance various traditional services. Traditional services is in the sense like delivering product and services and so on. We have to make it to become more personal experience oriented with unique narratives. The other skill is technology savviness. So the literacy of technology is actually an agility in combining or mastering advanced technology that has become indispensable in creative industries, product and services. The third skill is the skill that characterize creative communities. So the skill of interpersonal ability in creative economy ecosystem, individuals and communities can blend to redefine the conventional concept of professions into roles and functions. So maybe I don't call myself only a lecturer. I don't call myself only, for example, a chairman, but I'm also a mover. I'm also an initiator, and so on and so on. So it has higher flexibilities in current and future occupations. People who work in creative industries and creative economy usually have these three kinds of skills, which is superior to the rest. And the challenge is that we should have this adequate system to really implement to really support in the form of policy and regulations at the city level based on data and evidence from the respective area. And I think that's the last slide from me. Thank you.
Terima kasih Ibu Tita. Thank you very much. It's a very comprehensive presentation, especially on the role of the citizen or community to support the creativity, the life of creativity in their cities. I was impressed on how the development of creative city that you mentioned in Indonesia only from only one, and then now it becomes 200 creative city in your network. Thank you very much. Now, well, I'm so sorry. Uh, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, distinguished participants, we are running out of time, but I will now invite participants who want to share their, if they want to pose question to the speakers or want to share their thought, because I have not seen any question posted in the chat box. Perhaps all participants who are willing to pose question can raise their hand.
Excuse me, Pak Chandra, if I may jump in very quickly. I understand that that Excellency Salem will need to leave very soon. So perhaps if we could give the screen to Excellency Salem first to share his final observation and final thoughts, and then we can proceed to the Q&A. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, Pak Bowo. Of course, yes. His Excellency Al-Kashimi, I've been informed that you are leaving the screen. You can have your final thoughts, sir, for 2 or 3 minutes. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chandra. Thank you, everyone, for this. It was a great awareness session, I think, to all of us to see what each one of us has been doing during this pandemic. There's a lot of shared values, I would say, across all of the presentations I saw. One comment which I agree with Marissa on is the need of policy change at a global level and at a regional level and at a local level, whether from federal governments, local governments. How can we enhance and ensure that SMEs and freelancers during this time, and this is a learning curve for us. We don't know if we're going to go through something like this again, hopefully not. People talk about the second wave, they talk about issues. It's completely unpredictable, and I believe that governments and institutions should be ready through policy action within this sphere of things. And I'm sure that the work Marissa is doing and the work that the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy in Indonesia is doing would be very helpful as a global benchmark for all countries to look at and to learn from. And we're very excited to be hosting the forum next year in our premises in Expo in 2021 to pick up this conversation. And hopefully by then when we meet, things are more normalized, but we must never forget the situation that we're in and the possibilities of reoccurrence of such a situation. So that's something that we need to keep at the back of our minds as policymakers, as people who really need to serve the creative industries at a challenging time. So I thank everyone for the seminar. It was very enlightening, and I wish we could share those presentations for each one of us as a learning curve for us all to learn from. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, His Excellency. It's a very
thank you.
sharp intervention that you provided us. Thank you very much. And now let me back again to the opportunity for the participants to raise question to the uh, speakers. Is there anybody who want to raise their hands? If not, because if not, I have myself a question that I want to pose to one of the speaker. That is my good friend Marisa Henderson. Marisa, are you still with me? Are you still with us, Marisa?
Yes, I am. I am here. Yes.
Okay, Marisa, you mentioned about the uh, uh, about digitalization. That is a prerequisite or a must for SMEs nowadays. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
will there be any program from ANTED that may be synergized with the Indonesian government or any government around the world, to help SMEs to integrate into the digital ecosystem?
Yes, the answer is yes. ANCTAD has an extensive program, an excellent program on digital economy. In fact, there is in the website, in the current website, so if you go to the ANCTAD website now, there is a news item in the front page that talks of the efforts that the creative economy and the digital economy sections are doing with regards to Kenya. So they are helping. We are helping Kenya to have a digital economy framework, a policy framework. So we work together with the sections, the different sections of the house. So there is a very important research on the issue, but at the same time technical cooperation, and we could discuss how to do something similar with Indonesia. That would be very important, because the expertise is in the house. There is also another program that is in Protect. So this program on digital economy is in one division. I am in another division, but we work together. There is another, in another division, in investment division, there is a program that is specifically focuses on small and medium enterprises. And we are working, the Creative Economy Program are working with them with regards to Angola. Because creative economies is a cross-cutting issue. So I need to liaise with my colleagues to really provide member states with the expertise they request. As well, there is a lot of room to work with small and medium enterprises related to creative economy, which is the backbone of the creative industries.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Marisa. So we have, as a member countries, we have to make use of the platform actually, right?
Yes. So it is important that governments take a lead in a policy framework that is adapted to their development needs. And this is this is what UNCTAD always does, and provides expertise through the three pillars: consensus building, like what we're doing now; technical cooperation, like what we're doing in Kenya; and research, like we will do with the publications. The three together, the three pillars work together.
Thank you very much, Doctora. Muchísimas gracias.
De nada.
Dear participants, Excellencies, I have just been warned by the admin, the host of this webinar, that we are really running out of time. It's already 4:35 in a Jakarta time, and then we have already gathered all the information, all the presentation are very interesting, a very comprehensive one, so insightful. I learned a lot from all the speakers. I do really appreciate that. Uh, now, for before I return this screen to Pak Bowo, I would like to uh, invite all the participants to give a virtual round of applause to our distinguished speakers. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Pak Bowo, thank you very much for the opportunity. Let me return the screen to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Chandra, and again, thank you very much for all the participants and all the speakers, of course. And it's very heartening that up to this point, most of the participants remain on the stream, and that shows their keen interest on the creative economy and how it can contribute to addressing these challenges of the pandemic. Now, if I may conclude by highlighting several keywords that our distinguished speakers have elaborated during the presentation. Joshua mentioned perhaps a very important keyword is unique spirit of togetherness, and that should be actually our underlying spirit in addressing this pandemic. And also from the next speaker, Excellency Al-Kashimi, about the importance of identifying key gaps that need to be addressed, which includes regulation, as well as support schemes, the need for data building so we can make informed decision, as well as intellectual property. From Angket, from Marisa, I guess we need to underline the fact that when we talk about creative economies, actually we are talking about a very diverse industry. It's not a single entity. It has many subsectors. So we need policies that recognize unique nature of this sector to have a tailor-made policies combined with a coordinated approach. So there is no one-size-fits-all in advancing creative economy forward. And then from Pak Louis, the main keywords is about the importance of understanding changes of consumer behavior and applying it in your business practice, in your business strategy about product knowledge, quality, urgency, and durability. And from Ibu Tita about the post-virus rethinking, about accelerating digital turn, shifting how we work, shifting how we socialize, and perhaps another very important point is the role of young generation to lead the return, due to their familiarity with technology, but also their innovative and creative spirit of the young generation. So that is my concluding observation, and I believe we have had a very robust discussion, and this should be very valuable in preparing and approaching the International Year on Creative Economy for Sustainable Development next year, as well as the World Conference on Creative Economy in Bali, in Dubai, and of course the UNCTAD 15 as well. I understand there will be a special forum on creative economy as part of the UNCTAD Ministerial Conference. So again, I would like to thank all resource persons for your very insightful views and pertinent points. I believe this has been very valuable for all of our participants, and they can relate those points to the circumstances in their respective countries. So that is all from us, and of course we look forward to our continued close cooperation. Um, this will be our collective work to continuously promote creative economy. And to conclude, a very important point at this challenging time: stay healthy and stay happy. Sekali lagi terima kasih Pak Sahli, kemudian thank you very much again Marisa, Pak Louis. I think he already left for another pressing engagement, and Ibu Tita, thank you very much.